What if the coldest winter in human history was not born from drifting ice, but from fire? What if a single mountain exploding into the sky threw Earth into a darkness so deep that the sun itself seemed to recoil, leaving our world shivering under a veil of ash? And what if, in that darkness, the fate of every future human, every nation, every language, every heartbeat depended on a few scattered families who clung to warmth inside a planet turning to ice? Tonight, we walk with them. We breathe their frozen air. We listen to the silence that nearly erased us. But there is something else hidden here, a quiet truth buried beneath snow and ash, a truth that completes this story in a way that changes how we understand ourselves. I'll show you that truth, but not yet, not until the cold teaches us what the fire began. When Toba erupted, it wasn't just another volcano. It was a planetary event, a blast that painted the sky with darkness. From Africa to Australia, from India to the edges of the ancient ice sheets, ash rose 30 miles high, spread across continents, and veiled the sun behind a grey curtain that refused to lift. Days dimmed, seasons stalled, temperatures dropped faster than any creature could understand. Rivers crusted with ice, the air thinned of warmth, and early humans already fragile, already few in number, felt the world tightening around them. This wasn't just a cooling. It was the beginning of a volcanic winter, so long and unforgiving that the earth itself seemed to forget what warmth had ever felt like. Humans had faced chill before. Mountain winds, long nights, seasonal frost. But not this. Not a cold that crept under the skin and made bones ache like hollow stone. They learned that survival meant layers. Thick hides from reindeer and aurochs, stitched with bone needles sharpened on stone. Fur garments hugged their bodies. Leather boots packed with grasses trapped heat, and cloaks made from stitched animal skins wrapped them like cocoons. There was nothing elegant about these garments, but they were inventions born from desperation, and they marked the first time humans truly engineered protection instead of enduring the world as it was. In the cold, creation began. The cold drove them inward, into caves formed by ancient rivers, lava tubes left empty by forgotten eruptions, and narrow rock shelters along frozen cliffs. Inside these stone chambers, families built circles of fire. The flames cracked and hissed as wet wood fought to burn, in air thick with ash. Smoke gathered along ceilings, in long, dark clouds. The smell of hide, sweat, and embers became the scent of survival itself. Here, under flickering light, children slept piled against their mothers. Hunters returned with frostbitten fingers. Elders whispered stories of the world before the sky dimmed. These caves were more than shelter. They were memory chambers, where fear softened into familiarity and hope glowed just bright enough to keep the dark from winning. But warmth solved only half the battle. Hunger gnawed with relentless patience. Plants withered under grey skies. Berries shriveled. Small game vanished, and the great herds mammoth, bison, reindeer migrated far beyond the reach of small, fragile human bands. Hunting became a long, dangerous ballet. Footprints in snow told stories. Broken twigs whispered directions. The warmth of steaming dung meant an animal might still be close. Sometimes they followed a herd for days, across frozen grasslands, just to bring down one reindeer that would feed the entire group for a week. And on the days nothing was found, they chewed old hides, boiled bones for the last traces of fat, and hoped tomorrow would be kinder. The cold did not pity them, but still they endured. In a world suddenly hostile, human hands and minds began to transform. Stone tools grew sharper, smarter, shaped with intention. Scrapers thinned heavy hides for warmth. Awls punched clean holes through stiff, frozen leather. Blades sliced meat from bone with a precision, born not from skill alone, but from the urgency of staying alive. They learned that when stone was heated and struck at just the right moment, it fractured into long, elegant flakes, blades that behaved exactly as they wished. Wooden spear shafts were wrapped in tight sinew, bindings that refused to loosen even in brutal cold. Innovation was no luxury. It was survival written into stone, bone, and fire. And without knowing it, these frozen nights pushed humanity onto the long road toward every invention to come. From the bow, to the wheel, to the first quiet spark of civilization. There were nights when wolves circled the cave, their hungry eyes catching the firelight, like drifting embers in the dark. Nights when the wind rose suddenly, not as weather, but as a voice, howling through cracks in the stone. As if the world itself was grieving, the sky gave no comfort, only a faint, ashen disk where the sun once lived and warmed the earth. Children cried from a cold so deep, their breath rose like smoke from a dying fire. Mothers pulled them close, murmuring lullabies shaped more by instinct than by memory or tradition. And every morning, men and women pushed past the cave mouth, stepping into a world that seemed determined to forget them, yet demanded to be faced all the same. This was courage without witness, bravery without glory, a quiet, stubborn endurance that carved no symbols onto cave walls, but pressed its mark deep into the DNA of everyone alive today. In the long dark of the volcanic winter, something quiet and extraordinary began to unfold. Families gathered close to the fire, sharing fragments of memory, soft warnings shaped by experience, and small, fragile hopes for a world they feared might never return. Some arranged stones in simple patterns, tiny symbols of order in the chaos of cold. Others carved lines into bone, marks with meaning they could feel, even if they couldn't yet explain. Children learned rhythms, breathing patterns that soothed the mind and carried a sense of belonging. Around these fires, language deepened, thought stretched into new territory. The first threads of culture took their trembling steps into existence. The Ice Age did more than test humanity. It molded us, teaching our species to remember, to imagine, and to dream beyond survival. The volcanic ash did not hold the world forever. Season by slow season, the heavy veil began to lift. Light returned first as a faint shimmer, pale beams of sun slipping through the gray and touching the frozen ground, like a memory trying to come back. Tiny blades of grass pushed through thawing soil, uncertain but determined. Herds appeared again on distant ridgelines, following the ancient paths their ancestors had abandoned during the long dark. And from the mouths of caves, families stepped cautiously into this softening world. But they were no longer the same people who had once fled inside for warmth. They carried new skills, etched into muscle, new memories shaped by hardship, new stories forged in firelight and fear. The cold had carved them, chiseling a deeper, stronger humanity than the world had ever known. At the beginning, I asked a simple question: why do you exist? Now we return to that unanswered thread, the truth buried beneath ash, snow, and 74,000 years of silence. You exist because ancient humans stood against a winter that should have erased them without a trace. They learned to kindle warmth. From wood, from stone, from each other. They shaped tools with purpose. They passed memories across generations. When forgetting would have been easier, they protected one another in a world where every sunrise was a gamble they might not win. The volcanic winter did not end our lineage. It sharpened it, refining humanity into a species capable of vision, of resilience, of relentless invention. The cold did not break us. In its unforgiving silence, it finished shaping who we would become. And so, as the ice retreated and the earth breathed again, our ancestors stepped out, carrying the first sparks of the world we now inhabit. Here on Prehistoric Shadows, we follow those sparks, tracing them through fire and frost, through silence and story, into the deep corridors of human time. The past is wide, and we have only opened one door. Walk with me again as we search for the next one. Inside every warm room today lives the memory of someone who once survived a world without warmth.